My name is Chris. I'm a current college student studying finance, and the reason I'm recording this video today is to document some of my job experience that I've had, to document my summer jobs I've had over the past 3 years or since I've started college. I want to do this because right now in the job market, I think it's really hard for a lot of college students to find an entry level job, or at least attain one, especially because of the experience requirements that a lot of these employers are looking for. And although I may not have any experience in a finance corporate setting, I have worked many jobs, and I want to portray that I have worked before and that I did learn stuff and how to just basically I've worked before and everything that entails. So the first the I want to do a series of these videos, but the first job I'll be talking about is my most recent summer job. I worked as a pool guard at uh this condominium pool. So I got this job through my grandma because she lives at the condominium complex and she knew the pool manager who eventually became my boss. And through that connection, um, I just filled out the job application, and there wasn't really any interview. I just showed up one day for training, and that's how it all started. So my typical my typical responsibilities for this job were there were uh, an opening shift and a closing shift. And the opening shifts were in the morning. Basically, I'd show up at 10 a.m., have an hour until the pool opens at 11 a.m., and have an hour to do everything to get the pool ready. So I would check the pool's pH levels and and chlorine levels, make sure that it's safe to swim in the actual water. And I'd also have to fill up the pool with water because the pool I worked at was constantly draining water due to some issue, so I'd have to turn on the hose and fill up the pool for about 30 minutes, and I'd set up all the chairs and umbrellas that the attendees would use. So all in all, that would take about like 30 minutes to do. So I really just waited 30 minutes. I would just have some 30 minutes to rest before the pool would actually open up to the condominium residents. So I want to describe the pool first. It was basically a big rectangle, and the pool was kind of two trapezoids with a rectangle in the middle. And I would sit right by the fence and let people into the pool in the corner of the pool. I'll definitely pop up some photos of the pool that I've taken, and I also probably draw how the pool looked like just in case nobody got my description. But it wasn't really that big. The pool was like in the middle of every single condominium building, And yeah, let me see what else I have to talk. So that's really how my typical. So I'm gonna talk about how my typical day looked like. I just sit there in the corner, watching, like letting in the the residents who had a pool pass into the pool, and then when they went out, I gave them back my pool pass. I'd also just take care of the pool during my shift, like clean it if there was any like trash or leaves in the pool, usually with like a net. It would like I'm sure if you've ever been to a pool, you've seen one of those nets that the lifeguards use to pick up to pull out the trash from the pool. But I'd say most of the time the pool was pretty clean. The only time it was really dirty was after a storm. That's when I would really have to do anything. But most of the time, my typical day just looked like I was just sitting under an umbrella, reading my book, and letting people in and out. Also, technically, I wasn't considered a lifeguard. I was just a like I just kept watch over the pool, make sure that it was operational, like letting people in and out. I don't have lifeguard situ any lifeguard certifications. So, in all intents and purposes, I'm not considered a lifeguard. And let me see what else I have to talk about here. There was also a closing shift. I'd say I work 50% of the time I work the morning shift, and 50% of the time I work the closing shift. And they're mainly the same, except that you just have to close the pool at the end of the day and just lock it up. Pretty simple. But I did prefer the morning shift just because it was more calm, it was more peaceful, less craziness was going on most of the time. So I had, apart from me, I had three other coworkers that worked with me. Two of them were my age. We also just happened to go to the same high school. I didn't really know them personally when I went to high school with them, but from all from everything it seems like they were pretty cool people. If I We rarely ever interacted just 'cause there's only one person working per shift. But yeah, I mean, what I'm trying to say, I guess, is I wish I was just I got to know them more, just 'cause they're my kids my age, and we were at this pool all day with each other together. And I had two bosses technically, but my main manager, I'll just call him B. B, he was his mother, B's mother owns the company, but B would run the day-to-day operations because she was getting a bit older. So if I had a issue with anything, or if like had a question, like I would talk to him first. And I also just want to say like quickly, like he was a pretty cool guy. I could tell he worked hard, and yeah, I was just I'm appreciative that he gave me the opportunity to work for his pool over the summer. Because sometimes finding a summer job in Chicagoland is pretty annoying with all the online applications. It's I think it's pretty stupid that I need to, have an interview to work at like a fast food or a retail store. But that's another story for another time. So last thing I'll talk about is like who really came to this pool, like what, and in particular I'm talking about the demographics of the pool. So one demographic was or were is like older white people, in particular older white women, like mainly just retired, went to the pool during the day, then enjoy themselves. They were nice ladies. I'd say most of them wanted me to strictly abide by the rules. Like they didn't, if like they wanted nothing to disturb the peace, which kind of I thought was unrealistic. But I mean, they were the least problematic people, and they just wanted to ensure that everyone was safe at the pool. Um, the other main demographics of the pool were, I would say, a lot of immigrants from Mongolia, Ukraine, or Eastern Europe. Those were the those were the main adults at the pool, and obviously the last main demographic were kids who were on summer break who came to the pool basically every day. So all in all, my typical day was pretty easy. I didn't have to do much per se. I was just I just had to be there because there's probably some rules saying that there needs to be a pool guard at the pool and let somebody in. And I just read my book all day basically. The which will become a problem later, but I'll talk about that later in the video. Um I managed to read 3 books during the course of my work. I read an entire 500-page book about the entire history of, or like the general history of World War II. That one was pretty interesting. And then I also read this book about the power of quiet because I'm a pretty quiet guy, I would say. I keep to myself. I won't really talk to anybody that I would consider a stranger just because I really like to get to know someone on like a one-on-one level before I really open myself up and be friendly. But moving on, I I also wanna. This is gonna be the second part of the video, which were the incidents that I had or the challenges I faced while working at this pool. Because even though if every day was pretty easy, I did, have to deal with issues at the pool. Some were pretty, I guess, like serious from the how they. There's a scale to them. What I'm basically trying to say. And the first incident I'll talk about, it's probably the least serious one, is one day I was just opening the the pool, and there was this bat on the cement ground, and this is my first time I've ever seen a bat like face to face. I'll probably pop up a photo of it that I took, but I mean it was scorching hot. I really didn't know what to do with it because I knew it was still barely alive, but I knew it was probably gonna die in this heat, and it was just kind of sad watching this kind of like beautiful animal in front of me just die from the heat, and I couldn't really do anything much about it. Um, yeah, I guess that's kind of how I feel about it. But yeah, I think so. I hope that was exciting. Um, I do have some more serious things that happen. I think one of the most intense things that happened on my job was there's this guy who didn't have a pool pass, and you need a pool pass to get in this pool. Like in there was an association with the pool, like a homeowners association, and they really took it seriously. So if you try to get into the pool without a pool pass, like I was obligated to call the police on them basically, which is quite a drastic like course of action to take. And I mean, one day this guy, I guess, decided to test me, and he just forced his way into the pool. And like I try to talk to him, like talk to this guy with like transparency, try to show him where I'm coming from, telling like if you don't leave the pool, I'm gonna have to call my boss or the president of the association, and they're gonna have to call the cops on you. And honestly, I didn't want to do that because I later found out this guy was trying to get his U.S. citizenship as well, and it would just bring upon like a host of problems that I didn't want for this guy, especially if like they're gonna charge him with trespassing onto a pool at the condominium complex that he lives at. But this guy was just not listening to the voice of reason, I guess. Like I told him like blah 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 blah. Like this is what happened if you don't do this, and trying to make I'm trying to take the best course of action for you. But he just wasn't listening, and I called my manager, and the manager called the president association, and she ended up calling the police on him, or like reporting to the police that someone was trespassing the pool. And like three police officers showed up, which was so it's kind of unnecessary for three police officers to escort one man off the premises of this dinky little pool. So yeah, it was just kind of a like a 2 hour fiasco in my shift because this guy wanted to go inside the pool I presided over without a pool pass. Um, I also I forgot to mention my third coworker, but he is someone I do admire very much, just 'cause he's a bit older than me, he's wise, he's experienced, but we did get into a little bit of a dispute because uh someone told him that I was reading books while I was working at this job. And I mean, technically, most likely, probably wasn't allowed to read books on the job. But at the same time, like, I really didn't have much to do. So for me, I just really didn't see that bit of it, like, that big of a problem. And, like, the way I just try to command the pool was more like I try to just be um the way I try to act on the pool was, I wasn't gonna step in unless I really needed to. Like for all intents and purposes, I wasn't there because I didn't want to uh be a controlling presence over the pool because I wanted the kids to have a good time at the pool. I didn't really want to bother or be a nuisance. to anybody while I was there and just make the pool a good experience where people can bring their family and cool off during the summer. So that was kind of my intention with it. So I just thought like I could read my book because I wasn't bothering them. I don't think I didn't think anybody would find a problem with it just because the pool just ran on its own. Like I really didn't have to. I just set up such a like good system of running things for myself that it just ran by itself. But anyways, I've been rambling, so I'll get into the core issue between me and my coworker. And my coworker did find issue, or he did tell me to like stop reading my books during my shifts. And I mean, initially I got pretty mad, especially since my coworker is not my boss. And this coworker, he he was controlling. He liked to be in control all the time, which because he really did care about his job. But from my perspective, if I'm working during my shift, I really don't want anyone to tell me how to run how to run things. Just because I have my own system, not saying it's the best or the only way of doing things, but it's what works for me. It's what works well. And when my coworker confronted me about it, about me reading books on on my shift, like I said, I got pretty mad at him, saying that like I really didn't care that I was doing this. I saw no issue with it, and whoever reported me to him, like I told him like if they have a problem, they just say it to my face, which is kind of the wrong way. Looking back on it, it was the wrong way to approach this situation. It wasn't the mature or the way or the right way to do it. But eventually, me and my coworker came to an understanding, and that he realized that I'm still a young, stupid kid being naive, and I realized that although he's a bit older and more controlling than me, he really just wanted what was best. Um, Also, one thing I haven't talked about a lot, which is the kids of the pool. I'd say most of them were fine. Most of them were well behaved, but there were times where a lot of like the kids would just get out of hand, and there's only one of me on shift. So I'll talk about this one incident where this one lady, she brought in like 8 kids to the pool. Just one guardian looking over these 8 kids. And I'm like, great. And there were these 2 other kids who were like well-known troublemakers of the condominium. Like my grandma would tell me that like these kids were troublemakers, and it so happened that these 8 kids and these 2 troublemakers were at the pool at the same time, and these 2 kids just started like picking on this where he had to be in elementary school, like about like probably 9 or 10 years old, and they just started like slapping him and like hitting him in the face with like their goggles. And at first, like the first 15 minutes, I noticed it and I was like, okay, maybe maybe they'll like leave each other alone. I mean, their parents are right there. I think there's no need to overreact in this current situation. But it just kept on going on. And then there's finally just a point where, I stood up and I told like the two guys causing the trouble, like, to just get the F out the pool. Like, why are you bullying this like kid in elementary school when you're twice his size going in like freshman year of high school? And I think like the thing that boggled my mind the most was like the kid who was getting bullied, like his mom was at the pool the entire time, but she just did nothing. Like she didn't even sit up from her chair. She didn't tell this kid to stop beating on her own, like whoever she was taking care of. So it was just really frustrating for me to see, a guardian or a parent not take, responsibility and do something for this little kid they're supposed to be taking care of. And that just kind of la that just left a mark on me, seeing how like a lot of adults just neglect children. And there's also this one time I had to save a kid from drowning. I could tell he couldn't swim well, and he often like clinged to the side of the pool. And for some reason, this kid kept on going towards the deep end. Like there's like a probably like a 9 foot deep end, something like that, maybe 12 foot. I don't know, bro. And like he just kept on moving closer and closer to the deep end. I just knew something was gonna happen or something wrong was gonna happen. But his mom was right next to him. So it's not like I saw this occurring and was like, nah, I just it's like I did care, but I just saw his mom was right next to him. But eventually this kid just tried to start swimming on his own right off the deep end and he like couldn't swim, so he started drowning. So I had to grab the life buoy, run over to where he was in the pool and just throw it in. And it wasn't like nothing serious. Just it's kind of just quick action. Had to save this kid from drowning. Um, the last thing I'm gonna talk about. This is probably up there for the most disturbing day I had at my job. I met this 14-year-old kid or 13-year-old kid. So it was over the summer and he was going to be an incoming freshman at high school in high school. And there's a basketball court right next to the pool. And this so this kid just and there's like a fence separating the pool it like closes off the pool and this kid just went up to me across the fence and he just introduced himself to me. And right away, like I could tell there was something off with him. Maybe he had some sort of uh I think he did have autism. And he just started like asking me like a bunch of personal questions. But I could tell he was a lonely kid. So I decided to spend some time with him. So I let him sit with me under the umbrella. I didn't let him swim or anything, because if you were a kid or under the age of 12, you had to have a parent with you. And this kid just started telling me about his life, how his parents are like Philippine immigrants, or immigrants from the Philippines. They don't really speak English that well. and he just like told me that his parents are abusive towards him, that they hit him with a broom a lot. He says he just like told me all these horrible things, that like he hates his parents. He wish he wishes like they weren't here. And like hearing that type of stuff, I just try to explain to him that like parents are still people and adults, not saying, not excusing what he alleged that his parents did to him, but if he didn't have his parents, like he wouldn't have a place to live. There would be nobody to provide for him. So I try to explain stuff like that to him. And I think I did have a sense I was getting through to him. But what disturbed me the most was just how violent and hateful this little kid was at the age of 14, saying all these pretty nasty stuff about his parents. And I think I'll probably remember that kid for the rest of my life just because a sad childhood is always one of the worst things to hear about. So I want to conclude this video about what I learned about the job, or thoughts on my job. Like I said, the job was pretty easy. Typical day was pretty easy. I mean, I read a book like every minute of my shift, basically. There were some, I guess, like traumatic days. I don't know if traumatic is the right word to say, but just traumatic, intense days where I met some pretty, just like, which showed the ugly side of life, I guess. And mainly what I learned from this job was just how to communicate better with people. It made me realize that people aren't perfect, that relationships aren't perfect, and I shouldn't ever try to strive to make a relationship perfect because of that constraint of the world, basically. And I've been applying that teaching and or lesson in my life by just remaining still whenever I see, ugliness in the world or suffering in the world. Um, I do try to help people as much as I can. Maybe my faith pushes me to do that. Whatever pushes me to do that, I try to make the world a better place. But I've been told and learned that I can't fix every little bad thing in the world, which kind of sucks to hear because I love solving problems. I love making people's lives better just because I care a lot about people. I always try to put others over myself, but that slowly just that care I had for others just slowly consumed me because obviously I'm not I'm not perfect myself. I'm not God. I can't fix everything in the world. I can't fix that's a I can't fix everything that's wrong with the world, and trying to just consumed me. So I've learned that, or I've applied that sense in my life to control what I can control, which is myself, my own actions, and that's really the best way I can be compassionate towards others without letting it destroy me. If you made it to the end of this video, congrats. It's just 36 minutes of me talking about my work experience. I hope it wasn't too boring. It probably was, but I've been learning to express myself more through communication, and it's not going to be perfect the first time. I'm not I'm not a well versed speaker or anything. So this is my attempt to learn how to communicate and speak better.